carried out its first missile test in more than 2 months earlier this week, ending the longest stretch of calm since President Donald Trump took office. But according to satellite images obtained by Fox News, the North Korean military is already constructing another launch pad at the Pangyong Air Base in North Pyongyang, the same site where it carried out its July 4th launch of an ICBM. This suggests that the North is already planning for its next missile test. The images spotted construction just days after the nation launched an ICBM that North Korea claimed was powerful enough to carry a super heavy nuclear warhead that could strike the mainland of the United States. According to the ImageSat analysts who are closely following North Korean military activity, this is the first time that they have decided to rebuild a site that they have used before. The photos were taken on the 23rd and 24th, and they appeared to show the development of another launch pad just a few yards away from the one used during the July 4th Hwangsang 14 ICBM launch, as well as newly renovated access road. The satellite images also show the construction of an aircraft hangar, as well as airplanes being moved and stored in hangars on the tarmac. With the recent launch of another ICBM and the construction of additional launching pads, North Korea continues to defy the US-led world outrage over its nuclear program and is determined to bring it to completion. The Hwasong 15 rocket tested by the North on Tuesday, was the most powerful of the 3 ICBMs tested by the Kim regime so far. Furthermore, the mobile night launch appeared aimed at testing new capabilities and demonstrating that Pyongyang would be able to strike back to any attempt at a preventive strike against the regime. The missile's peak height and recorded flight time also helped confirm the Pentagon's worst fears. The North now possesses the capability to strike nearly any target on the continental US. That's the first report, so it appears that North Korea are already planning to launch their next missile. As those photos were taken on the 23rd, 24th, they would have been... Let's have a quick look. Oh, my computer's running slow. Anyway, it's been 7 days since those photos were taken, and we know how quickly the North Koreans are moving to accomplish all of their goals. So who knows how far along they've got by now until the next satellite image is taken. The US ambassador tells China to cut off oil to North Korea or will take control of the situation. That's a very stern and threatening statement. Most of these wars that have been fought in the past have been over oil, and it seems that the precious black liquid is causing more concerns in relation to China than we have been made aware of in the mainstream media. What I can see here is Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, is telling China that they must stop selling oil to North Korea, and issued a warning to Beijing that if action wasn't taken, then the US would have to step in. It's quite a strong statement to say that if you don't stop sending them oil, we're gonna basically do something about it ourselves. And how are they gonna stop China from sending oil to North Korea unless they somehow control the flow of oil to China, which would make sense because as China is looking to sell its oil in its own currency and buy oil in its own currency, the US doesn't like that. So something has to be done. It's the same kind of pattern that seems to be following on from what happened with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. He was selling his oil in different currency, or at least wanted to, and then all of a sudden, they had weapons of mass destruction, and then 9/11 happened, and then, they had to be invaded, only to find out that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and only to find out that the 9/11 attacks may have been an inside job in order to justify going to war with Iraq. a reason that the American citizens could get behind, and that America's international partners could get behind. So that, I'm not going to read this whole document, but that's the gist of it. Stop selling oil to the North Koreans, or we're going to do something about it. What they're going to do, we'll see. Obviously, if China doesn't, restrict themselves from selling oil to North Korea, which I don't think they'll do. They haven't done it so far, and I don't think they will. Excuse me. The USA is trying to provoke war with North Korea. Trump should come clean. This is coming from Russia. So the report says that the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who's popped up in the news quite a lot lately, he's accusing Donald Trump of adding fuel to the fire when it comes to Kim Jong-un, excuse me, and that he should come clean if he was looking for a pretext to destroy North Korea. So again, following on from what I just said about stopping oil in China, Russia seems to believe that there is a pretext, that he's looking for a pretext to start war with North Korea. Whether North Korea is the main issue, or whether they want to get North Korea out of the way so that they have a direct line of access through South Korea to China, that could be another possibility. North Korea is just a small state, but their strategic position is important if you were looking to possibly go against China in the future. So Russia accused the United States on Thursday of trying to provoke North Korean leader Kim Jong-un into flying off the handle over his missile program to hand Washington a pretext to destroy his country. In some of the most robust comments on the subject to date, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also flatly rejected a US call to cut ties with Pyongyang over its nuclear and ballistic missile program, and said this policy towards North Korea was deeply flawed. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula have flared after North Korea said it had successfully tested a new intercontinental ballistic missile on Wednesday, in a breakthrough that put the US mainland within range of its nuclear weapons. Just to be clear, we've had a report that it was on Tuesday and it was on Wednesday. It was on Tuesday for the UK side and the American side, but it was on Wednesday for North Koreans, as it was the 29th for the North Koreans, and it was the 28th for the rest of the world, kind of thing. So that's really that report. Russia's kind of getting on to the point where it seems that this is all a pretext for war. You're kind of forcing North Korea's hand here with your aircraft carriers and your military drills and your rhetoric about destroying the regime and destroying the country. So, we have to look at that. There's a report from, I think it's the New York Times, that Trump plots to drop Rex Tillerson after blasting chief diplomat's North Korea strategy. Now, the thing you have to know or remember about Rex Tillerson, from what I'm seeing, is he is one of the only people in the Trump administration who is trying to advocate for a diplomatic solution to this, to the tensions on the North Korean peninsula. Every other administration person, or every other member of the administration, from Nikki Haley to H.R. McMaster, to John Kelly, and all the other people, I can't remember all their names right now, but basically they're all taking this kind of like harder line towards North Korea, whereas Rex Tillerson is the only one kind of hoping that they can come to some sort of diplomatic solution. And now it appears that they are looking to get rid of him. So insiders have claimed he will be replaced by Mike Pompeo, the director of the CIA and former man who patrolled the Iron Curtain before the fall of the Wall of Berlin, or before the fall of the Berlin Wall, excuse me. His appointment would add yet another former service member to his ranks, alongside Chief of Staff John Kelly, Secretary of Defense James Mad Dog Mattis, and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. It appears that this is some sort of, they're replacing everyone with military people, is what I can see. Like, Chief of Staff here, he's a former military man. Defense, James Dog Mattis, he's a former military man. H.R. McMaster, military man. And now they want Mike Pompeo, former military man. So it looks like they're bringing in a lot more military minds into the administration, which obviously, if you're dealing with war, it partially makes sense. But then you have the DoD, and various defense institutions that are there to deal with those kind of things. Having them in the administration where you're dealing with legislation and politics isn't necessarily the place to have these people. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Mr. Tillerson has long pushed for a diplomatic solution to the foray that has engulfed the US and the Korean Peninsula. Mr. Tillerson welcomed China's efforts towards quelling the tensions on the Korean Peninsula, but urged them to exert more pressure on the hermit state by limiting its oil exports to North Korea. So there again, we have the oil. The oil is it's always about the oil, the money, the power, because they all link into one. So China doesn't look like they're going to be restricting the oil. Russia are accusing the Trump administration of trying to provoke a war. Now they're trying to get rid of Rex Tillerson, the only member of the administration who is advocating for diplomacy. And they're installing military personnel across the entire administration. So it appears that this is some sort of military coup, is what I think it may be. So that's the end of that report. And the last one, sorry, my computer's moving a bit slow, is that in addition to all this, Russia has deployed Marines to the North Korean border after their ICBM launch. So I think the way I'm looking at it is I don't think that Russia is, looking at invading North Korea, but I think that they're positioning troops along the North Korean border in case there is a preemptive strike on North Korea. The same what the Chinese did. They've got people lined up along their incredibly long border between China and North Korea, ready for intervention, if you like to call it that. So Russia announced on Wednesday that North Korea's latest intercontinental ballistic missile launch constituted a provocative act, which while also calling on all sides to stay calm, major Russian military maneuvers have been reported today along Russia's tiny stretch of border with North Korea, according to a alarming report detailing the new Russian military build-up. Russian Marines have practiced landing operations at its border with North Korea following Pyongyang's controversial missile launch test this week. The military said Russian naval infantry servicemen and the crews of Russia's Pacific Fleet's ships Admiral Nebelovsky, I think, and Perespet carried out a swift amphibious charge on a beachhead in the Primorye, I think that's right, region, Russia's only one to border North Korea. Sorry about that. There's a lot of names in there that I had some difficulty pronouncing. So I'm not going to read the rest of it because I could already see that there's more names that are difficult to pronounce here. And when I do these reports, I prefer to get the names right. So if I can't, I'm not going to say them. But that's basically it. That seems to be the chain of events that's going on. Maneuvers across the Middle East, maneuvers in China and Russia. I've already reported on the Chinese and their airline stopping that, the trade bridge between North Korea and China temporarily stopped. Russia blaming the US for provoking North Korea. North Korea having its new missile and then, building more launch pads immediately after. So, they could be preparing for another missile test, or they could be preparing for a preemptive strike, or they could be preparing for a retaliatory strike. Either way, it looks like the Trump administration is going full military in terms of the people they have in place. So, in other words, it's a military coup that seems to be going on, a very subtle, slowly moving military coup. But if you can see all the people that Trump had in his original administration are slowly being replaced, and they're being replaced by people who are former military, and everything that's going on with this whole North Korea issue blowing up. And then you've got the oil. So that's the report for today. A lot to digest there. These reports are coming in like every day. I'm trying to keep up with it all and trying to link it all together to give it some sort of cohesiveness, because I think every report that's coming out in regards to China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Egypt, Syria, Saudi Arabia, America, the UK, Germany, basically there's news reports coming out that seem linked to war. They are part of the bigger picture, and they're all little puzzle pieces that needs to be fitted together to understand where this is going and how close we are to some form of potential conflict. We don't want to be warmongers, but at the same time, we don't want to be blind to what's going on and, all of a sudden be surprised when something happens. Rather be prepared, and in that way, you can ensure that your actions that you take next are the correct ones.